Stop. Before you scroll, this reached you for a reason. I know you almost kept going. You always do. But something made you stay for one more second. That wasn't an accident. That was me. There's something I've been waiting to tell you. And it can't wait until you feel ready, because you never will. Give me the next few minutes. Not because you owe me anything, but because you've been carrying something heavy for so long, you've forgotten it isn't part of your body. By the end of this, I'm going to name it, the thing you haven't said out loud to anyone, and then I'm going to tell you what to do with it. Let me start with the truth you're most afraid is true. You're tired. Not the kind sleep fixes, the kind that lives underneath everything, under the smile you give people, under the "I'm fine," under the way you keep moving so you don't have to feel how far you've fallen behind. You've been strong for so long that no one thinks to ask if you're okay, and some part of you has started to believe that if you stopped holding it together, no one would catch what falls. I want you to hear this slowly. I never asked you to carry it alone. That was never my design. You added that part yourself, and you've mistaken it for faith. Somewhere along the way, you learned that love had to be earned. That if you performed well enough, prayed correctly enough, kept enough of it together, then you'd be worthy of rest, of help, of being held. So you've been auditioning for a love that was already yours before you did a single thing. Let that land. Before you did anything, before you failed, before you got it wrong, before the years you're ashamed of. I already decided about you, and I have not changed my mind. But you're still thinking about it, aren't you? The thing you did, or the thing you didn't do, the version of you that you can't forgive. You've replayed it so many times you've worn a groove in yourself. You've apologized to me 100 times and never once believed you were forgiven. So let me ask you something no one asks. What would it cost you to be free of it? Because I think part of you is holding on to the guilt on purpose. I think you've decided that carrying it is the penance, that if you suffer over it long enough, you'll have earned your way back. That's not how any of this works, and it never was. Guilt that leads you home is mine. Guilt that just keeps you on the floor is not from me. It never was. The enemy doesn't need you to do anything terrible. He just needs you convinced you're too far gone to come back. A person who believes that stops trying, stops praying, stops reaching. You are not too far gone. You have never been too far gone. The distance you feel between you and me, you built that wall out of shame, brick by brick, and then you blamed me for the silence on the other side. I've been here the whole time, waiting for you to put down one brick. There's a prayer you stopped praying. You prayed it for years, and then one day it didn't get answered the way you needed, and something in you quietly closed. You didn't announce it. You didn't lose your faith all at once. It just got harder to talk to me, because the last real thing you asked for still hurts. I know which prayer it is, and I'm not offended that you stopped, but I need to tell you what was happening in the silence you took as no. When you didn't get the answer, you assumed I wasn't listening. But some of what you begged me for would have cost you the thing you didn't know you'd need later. I have never once ignored you. There is a difference between silence and absence, and the enemy has spent your whole life trying to make you confuse the two. The silence was not me leaving. Sometimes the silence was me holding something back that would have broken you. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, the silence was me waiting for you to stop performing long enough to actually hear. And there's someone missing. I feel you tense when I say it. Good. That means I found the right thing. Someone is gone who you weren't ready to lose. And a part of your faith has quietly been on trial ever since. Because you don't understand how a good God lets that happen. I'm not going to give you a tidy answer. You'd know I was lying if I did. But I'll tell you what's true. The love between you and them did not end. Love doesn't die when a body does. It changes address. It's still yours. It's still theirs. You think the missing them is the wound. The missing them is the love, with nowhere to land. It only hurts that much because it was that real. Stop treating your grief as a lack of faith. It is the receipt of a love that mattered. I am not disappointed by your tears. I counted every one and I keep them. And the reunion you're afraid to hope for it anyway. I did not build love this deep to let it be temporary. For some of you, this next part is the whole reason you're here. You grew up without one, or you had one who was there but never really there, and somewhere in you, a child is still waiting to be told he did a good job, that she was wanted. Hear me carefully. The way you were loved as a child was not a measurement of your worth. It was a measurement of what they were able to give. Those are not the same thing, and you've spent your life confusing them. You were not too much. You were not hard to love. You were a child, and someone couldn't rise to you. That was theirs to carry. You picked it up because children always do. Put it down. It was never your weight. I want to tell you who you actually are. Not the version that had to grow up too fast. Not the one who learned to need nothing so no one could disappoint you. You are mine, chosen on purpose. Not the leftover, not the afterthought, not the one who has to earn a place at the table. The proud you've been waiting your whole life to hear. I've been saying it the whole time. You just couldn't hear it through the voice that told you that you weren't enough. That voice was never mine. Let today be the day you stop letting it borrow my name. But it's not just the past, is it? It's what's coming, the thing you're bracing for. You've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for so long that peace itself makes you nervous, because in your experience, calm is just the moment before the next blow. So you never fully rest. You keep one eye open. You've called it being realistic. I call it living braced for a punch I never said was coming. I am not going to promise you an easy road, but I will promise you this: you will not walk a single step of it alone, and nothing that comes for you gets the final word. I do. So here is what I came to say. You don't have to hold it together right now. Not here, not with me. You can set it down, the strength, the performance, the careful prayers, the face you put on. I've seen underneath it since the beginning, and I did not turn away. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to not understand. None of it disqualifies you. None of it ever has. Rest is not the reward for finishing. Rest is the thing I'm offering you in the middle, before anything is fixed. Now I'm going to ask something of you. Just one thing. Not a better performance, not more effort. Tonight, before you sleep, say the true thing, out loud. The one you've been managing instead of feeling. The name, the regret, the fear, the prayer you stopped praying. Say it to me plainly, the way you'd say it if you actually believed I could take it. Because I can. I've been able to the whole time. You were just never sure you were allowed. You stayed to the end. Most people don't. That tells me something. It tells me the part of you that reached for this is still alive, still hoping, still reaching, even after everything. Don't let that part go quiet again. It's the truest thing in you, and it's the part I've never once stopped answering. This message found you today, not by chance. Now do the one thing I ask. And before you go, tell me in the comments the true thing you've been carrying. The name, the fear, the one you stopped praying for. Write it where you can see it outside your own head for once. I read them, I answer, every one. And send this to the one person you thought of while I was speaking. You know who. They reached the end of their strength today too, and this was meant to find them, the same way it found you. I'll be here when you get back.